Scotch Boyz.
Scotch Boyz.
The Scotch Boyz.
Scotch Boyz, 100% Jamaican-owned company in Westmoreland.
This product is for Jamaicans. Everything about it, all the money is coming back to Jamaica.
Not only that, we are representing a history and a culture. And you know that the last podcast where Matthew was on, people were very proud of what he's done. Jamaicans don't mince words when you're messing up either. If we were doing a disservice to the brand or to the culture, it quickly let us know. We're really happy and proud of the product that we're creating, and over time, we want to be the red stripe of sauce.
Hello Throppers, and welcome back to another video podcast episode. And if this is your first time visiting, a special welcome to you. My name is Winthrop Wellington, and I am the host of On Deck with Throp, where we have meaningful conversations with people from all over the world, all about Jamaica. And today we got some super special guests on the show that are going to be talking a lot about entrepreneurship, but also a company that I'm so proud of that has come from right here in Westmoreland, right here in Jamaica, that has gone global. And it is my honor to welcome both Matthew Wallace and Neil Hudson of the Scotch Boyz to the podcast. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thank you
Great
so
to
much,
be here.
bro.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Of course, Matthew, you are the actually first person to come on the podcast twice. You're the first repeat guest.
What?
So
all right,
big things.
Nice.
So,
I'm honored, bro. Thank you, man.
Welcome again. And I don't want to have anybody assume or have us assume that everybody has seen our first get together. And we really want to dive into Scotch Boyz, and you guys have some really amazing things going on and happening. And like I said in the opening, I'm super proud of you guys and what you're doing. So we want to dive deep into it. But to start, if you guys could first just introduce yourselves briefly, and then we can get things going. Neil, if you want to go ahead and kick us off.
Sure. No, Neil Hudson, co-founder of Scotch Boyz Jamaica. I lead sales and partnerships in the US.
Awesome.
And my name is Matthew Wallace, co-founder as well of Scotch Boyz. I handle marketing and just bunch of other stuff, anything that needs to be done.
Okay, awesome. So I guess to start with, how do you guys know each other?
It's actually funny. So Matthew and I went to the same high school. So I was 2 years ahead of Matthew, but Matthew's cousin and I were very good friends. And again, for those who don't know, Jamaican high school starts when you're 10 or 11 years old. So we've known each other for, well, let's not say, since we were 10 and 12. Let's just leave it at that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then were you guys like best friends? You guys go to each other's houses growing up sort of thing?
What? We would see each other around a lot, for sure.
Okay.
He and as he mentioned, my cousins were really close. And then at the time, my cousins were my best friends. So, by, just association, we were around each other a lot, for sure.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And then you were really close with Drew growing up.
Exactly.
And then Drew is my good friend. We knew each other again from Manning's as well, but reconnected. We both went to university abroad. I was in Boston, Drew was in Canada. We moved back to Jamaica at the same time and reconnected, and Matthew and I reconnected then as well.
And Drew's another partner in Scotch Boyz.
Yeah, and Drew's another Scotch Boyz co-founder. He leads manufacturing and sourcing for us as well.
Gotcha. And you have one more partner as well. It's four of you guys, right?
Yep. So it's four of us, and Kamar Swaby, he does our design. He's really the creative amongst us.
Okay, awesome. And then when did the Avengers assemble? Like, what year did this happen?
When Thanos attacked. We got together. So we entered a barbecue competition. Drew and I were back in Jamaica. We entered just for fun to see who could cook the best. Because even before that, Drew would always cook. He would always grill. So we wanted to test the theory whether others would validate whether he was a good chef.
What year was this? Sorry.
This was 2014 actually.
Okay.
Yeah, 2014, 2015. And we did really well, came at the top of the barbecue competition using a sauce that Drew created, which is grandfather. This is a tweak of his grandfather's recipe. And I was actually in law school at the University of the West Indies at the time. And for months after that, people would constantly ask and say, Neil, I had no idea you guys could cook. Your sauce was amazing. When can I get some? And Drew would whip up a batch. And when we gave it away to one of my cheapest friends, cheapest person I know, he paid me for it. I said, we have to bottle and sell this. So we use the same name from the barbecue competition, Scotch Boyz, because we're cooking with Scotch bonnet peppers, and we actually use almost the same pepper flame logo that we had on our apron, and that's what appears on our bottle labels today.
I gotcha. And so was that barbecue competition here in Jamaica?
Yep, it was in Kingston.
It was in Kingston.
Yep.
Okay. And did you guys win?
Yeah, we came at the top in several different categories, but we won some of the categories.
Okay, awesome. And then how did it go from like, hey, we should bottle this, we should sell it, and then how did you guys get to the point of like getting everybody together and then deciding your roles, who's gonna do what, and like, hey, we're gonna make this happen?
Well, I have to give credit to Drew to being a visionary. I even was reflecting on it today that we wouldn't have gotten here without the input of everyone. And I think, again, kudos to Drew for seeing that we needed the help early when, in the early days, we may not have anticipated some of those needs. So Kamar is superb in design. Shortly after I moved back to the States, so I lead sales in the States. Matthew's on the ground here in Jamaica, leading partnerships, helps with our charitable endeavors and sales as well. So that really, getting us four together really has propelled the brand. And we just turned to who was next to us, our friends who had different skill sets. So that's how we divided the respective roles. And Kamar, marketing, Matthew, partnerships and sales. I have a background in sales as well. And Drew, he's very comfortable manufacturing, so we kept in manufacturing.
Okay. And you had mentioned that you went to law school. Like, what did everybody study before getting into Scotch Boyz?
I went to FIU, so I studied hospitality management, and my family background was in hotels and restaurants. So naturally, I was very passionate about food, and so it was very easy to put my energy behind the sauce brand because I was already there, And just to add to what Neil was saying about our synergy, it happened very naturally. As he mentioned, Drew's excellent at sauce and at flavors. He's third generation spice family, So, and then Neil is, extremely proficient in sales. Kamar is excellent at designing and being creative in ways that we need him to be. And then my, background just fell into food and obviously sales, being behind and being in hospitality. So yeah, those strengths just really came together in a really an amazing way. So
I see. And did you guys have any concerns about jeopardizing your relationship, your friendships that you guys had before the company, in terms, because you hear these horror stories about friends going into business and then they turn out hating each other, right? So did that ever come up in conversation?
Maybe when we start making some real money, we'll start fighting. No, I'm joking. I think the one thing about Jamaicans is we're not afraid of being brutally honest. And that's what helps. I think if we couch conversations and we try to use too much euphemisms, I think sometimes things get lost in translation. We're seeing a lot now about, how do you grow and scale a business while, having respect for people. But at the end of the day, when we have harsh conversations where, I may be falling down and Drew's or Matthew's telling me to pull up my socks, it's not coming from a bad place. It's coming from a place where we need to grow and scale the business. So everyone needs to put the shoulder to the wheel. So again, it's worked well because we've had that prior respect for each other, which continues through to this day. So we haven't run into any major challenges. And it's interesting you ask that because I get asked that same question a lot, So I guess had I not been asked the question, I don't think we would have thought of it because we've been fortunate that we've had really good synergy in growing the Scotch Boyz brand.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really good to hear.
I think one of the things, that has kept that going is that the four of us are very open to correction and we want to grow. We genuinely, as individuals, we want to grow. So it's not taken, as Neil says, in a bad way, like, oh, okay, you need to do a little bit better, or I feel like this could have been done differently. I think learning and being an entrepreneur is a learning experience, and you have to continue to grow and change as you go along. So
I think that's so important and something that kind of gets overlooked in the entrepreneurial game, and especially when it gets into partnerships and I know even from working with my brothers here at Travelers, you really got to put that ego aside, I'm sure you guys, everybody is very skilled, everybody's very capable, but it's really having this ultimate focus of what is best for the gander, right? Yep. And so that's excellent. I'm very happy to hear that you guys are doing that, because otherwise then you guys wouldn't be where you are, right? Yep. I want to hop into the product a little bit itself. And as we know, this is a Jamaican brand and Jamaican product. And I just want to make sure that people understand like how Jamaican it really is. And so can you go through what makes it so Jamaican? Of course, Scotch bonnet pepper, we know that, but there are so many layers to it.
Yeah. I mean, it couldn't be more Jamaican unless I jumped inside the bottle, right? So, it's interesting, right? I've been traveling a lot in the past couple of years, and every time I go to a country, I always try their food. And their food is just, it is the amalgamation of a nation's history and culture. And that's more true in Jamaica than anything else, right? So, jerk is the story of rebellion. So it's actually, jerk comes from the Maroons in Jamaica who were, escaped slaves who actually signed a treaty with the British because they were, kicking their asses. And that's what jerk is, because they used to actually bury the wood and smoke it over pimento wood, so you wouldn't see the smoke when it was being prepared.
Because they had to hide.
Yeah, exactly. So that's our jerk sauce, and everything that goes inside a Scotch Boyz bottle is sourced in Jamaica. The Scotch bonnet pepper, tried and true. Again, even funny enough, it is a pepper that's indigenous to the Caribbean, but the name in of itself is reflective of Jamaica's history and culture, because Scotch bonnet is named because it said it looks like a Scotsman's hat or bonnet, and it's only locally sourced Scotch bonnet peppers, which sometimes have a hard time finding. So if anyone wants to sell us some peppers, we'd buy. And then you have, the not properly named habanero, which is 100% West Indian red peppers, and Drew's favorite, the island barbecue sauce. So everything that goes in it is uniquely Jamaican, and it is coming from a family recipe as well. So yeah, we're very proud of our sourcing and everything that goes into the Scotch Boyz bottle.
How important is that to you guys, that everything that goes into this product is from Jamaica?
Oh, we wouldn't have it any other way. That's the whole concept behind Scotch Boyz, is to be a world-renowned sauce that just so happens to be Jamaican. So we didn't want to be, from inception, we didn't want to be pigeon-held in the ethnic aisle in any stores that we went into. We wanted to be mainstream. We wanted to be next to, all the other big brands out there that you find all across the globe. So that was the concept. And showcasing the Jamaican produce, the quality of the Jamaican produce. The peppers that we get here are exceptional. As Neil mentioned, the Scotch bonnet has a distinct flavor profile. You won't find that anywhere else, especially grown here in this region. You're not going to find a sauce like Scotch Boyz.
Yeah. Yeah, Jamaican food is too good to be kept a secret. Drew always says Jamaican food should be Michelin star rated if it were just plated in small portions. Yeah, so not with that, we take it very seriously. We have the flag on the bottle, which is a redesigned label, and Drew fought me for that for years. But even to get the flag on the bottle, I had to go to the Prime Minister's office to get permission to put the flag on the bottle. And I still have, and I still have, and it said, there's even ways in how it should be presented. It can't be stylized, it must be accurate representation. So I have that letter in my office now. So it's not only that we are representing a history and a culture, and that even from the last podcast where Matthew was on, people were very proud of what he's done. But to my earlier point, Jamaicans don't mince words when you're messing up either. So if we were doing a disservice to the brand or to the culture, they'd quickly let us know. So yeah, we're really happy and proud of the product that we're creating. And over time, we want to be the red stripe of sauce.
I love that, the red stripe of sauce. It seems like you guys are taking that very seriously. Brand Jamaica in everything that you're doing with the products that you're putting out. And I think that's awesome.
Yep.
What separates your sauce from everything that's out there, everything else that's out there?
I'd say it's two things, right? I think hands down, we have the best tasting sauce, not only from a Jamaican sauce, but across the board. I think we have the best flavors out there. And our branding and marketing. When we first started the company, and I was going to a few distributors in the States, and I was telling them, this is our price. They would say, it's way too expensive. You will never, ever do well. And someone else sat me down and said, I don't like the name. The name isn't inclusive enough. No, seriously, someone told me I don't like the name. It's not inclusive. I say, started by 4 boys, that's the story.
Right.
And what I think makes Scotch Boyz different is two things. our branding, our go-to-market strategy, and our ability to say, well, I guess I'd say, our collective ability to say no.
Mm-hmm.
When people were saying, Neil, I want to buy it on pennies on the dollar, I said, maybe this isn't for you. When people told me to change the name, I said, maybe this isn't for you. They don't get it. And that ability to say no has led us to getting on shelf in 300 targets. And, this summer we'll be on shelf in an additional 700 targets, so close to 1,000 targets at a price that's reflective of what we're paying for the peppers or quality production. So, that's, I think, the Scotch Boyz' differentiator. And lastly, I said, when people say, oh, I've had sauce before, they're all the same. I said, try it. And, they're quickly convinced.
Yeah, the proof is always in the pudding. So, my marketing strategy is to just get a bottle in your hand, have you try it, and then, after that we can talk.
Right.
Because most people can say a lot and promise a lot, especially with products nowadays. I think it's better to allow the product to speak for itself. And just to add to what Neil was saying, what makes us different as a company as well is a part of what we do, how we invest in Jamaica, reinvesting in Jamaica, and the community outreach that we do. A lot of companies do that, and we're happy, and we encourage that. And I think one way to encourage that is to lead by example. So we do a lot of outreach. We work with schools. We donate. We're working on a few projects now. We've adopted a school, St. Paul's Primary. So, it's a proud moment. It's a proud, it's a proud moment for us to be able to not only showcase the product and showcase the produce and this Jamaican product on a global scale, but then for it to be coming right back to Jamaica. They're not knocking any products or any brands out there, but there are a lot of Jamaican brands or brands that do make a lot of money off of Jamaica and the Jamaican diaspora, but all of that money isn't going to Jamaica. With this product is for Jamaicans, and everything about it, all the money is coming back to Jamaica, and we, as mentioned, we're working on a project now. So we're building a walkway for a school. We donate tablets, we donate supplies and stuff like that. So you can really see the improvement that is made just from one bottle of sauce.
No, that's so dope. I want to hop into the social impact that you guys are making in a bit, but I think it's just so dope that you guys bet on yourselves. That you didn't get influenced by somebody telling you to change the name or lower your prices because you knew what you had to offer. Like you knew that you had something special, you knew the quality was up there, and you weren't willing to compromise on that at all. And look what happened. And I think that that in itself is like incredibly inspiring, and you guys have some like really big things coming up because of that, because you stuck to your guns, that you guys believed in yourselves, you believed in each other more than anything else. And I think that's an important lesson for anybody that's out there that's watching and listening to your story.
Yeah. The two Jamaican sayings I really love, you have to believe in yourself and add tax. And you can't let anybody treat you like breadback.
There we go. There we go.
Or bread edges. No one's gonna. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's it. So, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say that we've been helped along the way. So, what's been instrumental, I think, to really our big success in the US is I did a small program called Trailblazers, which was sponsored by Shea Moisture Men at the Gathering Spot in Atlanta. And so the Gathering Spot is a co-working community space for entrepreneurs, artists, and there's one in Atlanta. They've since expanded to DC and LA. The Gathering Spot collaborates with Shea Moisture, which is one of the leading CPG brands in the world, for that Trailblazer program. And then from there, Scotch Boyz won a subsequent program called The Next Black Millionaire, sponsored by Shea Moisture, and they've been providing lots of mentorship and intentional introductions, and that's really helped scale the brand. So they're doing that as a part of their efforts to give back to minority entrepreneurs, and it's helping Scotch Boyz grow the brand so that we in turn can pay it forward in Jamaica for other entrepreneurs as well. Which is why when Matthew told me you wanted to come by and do this, I jumped at the opportunity because I just love just evangelizing our story. Hopefully it could spark inspiration for someone else who has an idea, be it in consumer product goods or tech. I just really want to see our community build and sustain as much wealth as they can.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
And how important is it to you guys to have mentorship? And this could be, you said Shea Moisture,
Yeah.
but even outside of that, how important is that to your journey?
Oh, it's been crucial. I speak from my personal experience as well. Mentorship has been so important for me. I think it's one of those things that you need to look for someone that can give you advice. They say if you're the smartest person in the room, you're definitely sitting in the wrong room, right? So, you want individuals around you that are achieving more than you are, that are, doubling up numbers, and, people that have crazy dreams, that, and huge goals. So that will push you. And then not only that, but mentorship should come from people that are really doing exponentially better than you. I feel like a lot of people tend to look closely for mentorship. Sometimes that's not necessary. You can get mentorship from somebody you don't know, just based on the way they live their life, the way they carry themselves, their company policies. It's important where you look for mentorship.
The thing about being in Jamaica is that you can find mentorship on almost every corner. There's a big party going on in the grill right now. And I said, Neil, this is the opportunity to go hand out some sauce. So I handed out some sauce to some jerk vendors, and they were like, yo, I love it. It tastes great. Keep doing your thing. I gave them Matthew's number, so they're going to be calling him.
So messed up.
Yeah, but, when I think on the mentors I've had, it's just, let's say youth is wasted on the young. And I'm looking, as I've gotten a little older, I look back on some of the advice that my mentors gave me, and it's just spot on. One of my person I look to as a good mentor, I give a shout out to him out, Andrew. He's always said, Neil, when you buy stocks, buy them and put them down. Don't look at it. And when I look at it, is when I make mistakes. And had I just left them, buy them and put them down, I would have started Scotch Boyz. Joke aside, I'd be that much further ahead. And what I love about mentors is, I've been on a few calls with Richard Lou Dennis, who is the founder of Shea Moisture. And when I ask him a question, I'm expecting him to answer one or two things. He unpacks 1,000 things out of my one question that I could have never, ever anticipated. Why is he able to do that? Because he's lived it and done it. We're thinking of redesigning the label to give it a little more pizzazz. And I presented it to Cara Sabin, who's the current CEO of Sundal, which is the Shea Moisture brand. And she said, Neil, you're losing some of your key design elements. You're going to, you still have the flag on it, but it's faded out amongst everything else that you have. And just in 1 second, was able to just, map out how we should do our go-to-market strategy. So, everyone's making a big deal about Chat GPT and Bard and all these AI, but you have a good mentor. You have all of that generative AI in a person who's not giving you a randomized answer. They can give you answer based on years of experience. And that's what AI is, right? It's fed learning from a machine. But these people have gone through it trial by fire. And if they are able to clear the path for me, then if they're able to clear the path for me or shine a light on the dark road, then I welcome all their advice. And it's been nothing. It has helped accelerate the Scotch Boyz journey by, I'd say, at least a decade.
I can imagine. I can imagine. And how has being Jamaican, born here in Jamaica, and especially particularly in Westmoreland, how has that prepared you for this journey that you guys are on now?
Oof. Great question. I think most people, because you can see in the current news and a lot of different affairs, different areas, there's so many people from Westmoreland that are doing extraordinary things here in Jamaica and abroad. Jamaica produces some of the greatest minds. I strongly believe that. And Westmoreland is no different. So the resilience that I think I've developed growing up in Westmoreland, growing up in Negril, and going to school here and having friends from here, just the resilience that you develop growing up in Westmoreland, I think is one of the key things that prepares you to go out and have to fight, because it's a fight, to get your product out there, to get your company up and running, and to get the brand awareness that you want. It's a struggle and it's a fight. So that's, I think, it's been crucial for me.
Yeah. It's only as I've gotten older, I start reflecting on certain things which I didn't enjoy growing up, but I say, maybe this helped build the metal for who I am today. So, even last night I was telling you, I went out and was just handing out sauce, And, the crowd is interesting. And I just felt right at home because this is where I grew up. So I think growing up in Westmoreland allows me to engage with a diversity of people from all walks of life. So, I don't feel out of... My dad used to let me tie out goat in the morning. But, my dad had a small cane field. And one time he had to spray it. I had to carry hundreds of buckets of water to... People not gonna believe me if I said anything.
No,
take that from the top. It's all true, but I look so anyway.
No, we want to hear it. We want to hear this. We want to hear it.
Anyway, I just said growing up in Westmoreland is an interesting experience, right? So you look at the map of Jamaica. Kingston is in the southeast corner. So let's say to the far right of the map, and Westmoreland we're here on the far left, right? So all the money spreads out from Kingston. So you could almost say we're at the furthest part from the center, the cultural hub of Jamaica. And so I went to high school in Westmoreland for the first 3 years. Again, Jamaican high school is 7 years. So the first 3 years I went to Manning's High. And then the last 4 I went to Woolmer's. And it was when I was in 5th, 6th form, ATI just started keeping. And my friends from Kingston who came down to Westmoreland, I went to ATI and they're like, Neil, so far you live? He's like, so far you live? He's like, I get 2 grey hair from the drive alone. So, but having lived in Westmoreland and then moved to Kingston, get the diversity of perspective, and it just makes me that much more keen to show that, it's still Jamaica, bro. Like it's not, we're not that different. And as I was alluding to earlier, Jamaica is almost like a microcosm of the world. But because it's a small island, there's that much more proximity. So, when you grew up middle class, you're not far from someone who's really having a hard time. But also because Jamaica's so small, you're able to see and you run into the wealthy Jamaicans as well. And I saw both worlds, and I, very early on, really wanted to know which side of the spectrum I wanted to end up. But I was also cognizant of the fact that someone who was struggling or born into a struggling family, they didn't do anything to deserve that. They just didn't win the genetic lottery. And, how do you fix that, right? Either by policy or generating wealth. And I think, when we started Scotch Boyz, we were very intentional that we weren't only going to do this to make money, because anyone who says they're in business not to make money, don't do business with them, because that's just not true. But we wanted to make money, but we also wanted to ensure that we generate money to impact the community. And I'm glad that we're doing so. And the fact that we're exporting and we're doing business in the States allows us to do that much more here.
No, excellent. You raised some very good points. Just like looking at the map, we all know that the real money in Jamaica is in Kingston, right? And again, I can't emphasize like how proud I am that like this is coming out from the furthest place away from Kingston, right? And I hope it's inspirational for people that like you can do it from anywhere. You don't have to be in Kingston, obviously, and you guys are like a real big example of that. Now, going into this next phase that you guys are in, you guys are about to, I don't want to like jinx it or anything like that, but you guys are about to blow up. You know what I'm saying? Like, in a big way, and like talking to Matthew, like like in him telling me certain things, I don't know how much you want to reveal, but I want to focus, like, how did you get there? And starting back to actually bottling the product, right? And then getting the raw materials here in Jamaica, and then going through, and I have no idea, I have no experience with import, export, well, maybe import for the hotel, but like definitely nothing in terms of exporting. How did that process go?
Yeah, there's a lot of behind the scenes requirements and actually to get your product into the States. So the factory where the sauces are made is FDA certified. Every year, every 2 years, they come and audit the factory to ensure that, it's up to standard. We're going to release a new product in the States, and Drew has to get the certification from the Jamaican Scientific Research Council and then submit FDA filing in order to substantiate that we can export to the US. There's a lot of logistics behind the scenes, but one thing about Jamaica is we're not too far from Miami, right? I mean, Cuba's kind of in the way, but there's ships that leave Jamaica on a daily basis to the US. So we're able to get from Montego Bay or Kingston to Miami in 2 days. If we pay a little less, it's 5 days, which is nothing in the grand scheme of things. And sorry, what's the second part of the question?
Well, I was just really focusing on like the initial stages of bottling it and pretty much focusing on the export, which is what you're doing. Yeah.
And then, and again, so when we started too, same thing we had, right? Some challenges. People are like, oh, I've had a Scotch bonnet sauce before. I'm not too interested. But I have to big up Hilo, because Hilo Supermarket, which is a chain of supermarkets in Jamaica, they gave us our first big bus. They said the brand looks great, the labels are great on the shelf. We'll take all that you have, and they roll us out in all 13. They roll us out in all 13 Hilos, and we've been building from there. From Hilos, got into some airports, then mom and pop shops took us. There's a shop across the road that carries us. Hotels like Travelers have it on the tabletop, and that just builds the story. So people go back to the States and they'll say, oh, I saw it at Travelers, I need it, and they'll buy it on Amazon, they'll buy it on our website. And all of that groundswell of support we've had in Jamaica allowed us to make a business case to Target to carry us in the initial 300 stores. And it's interesting. I think once you get that first big bus in the States, it's like, oh wow, you guys weren't just talking, you guys actually can scale. So now other retailers are reaching out to us, and our focus is to ensure that the Target is a success. There are 1,900 Targets in America, and interesting fact about Target is there's a Target within 10 miles of 90% of the U.S. population. Jeez. So and again, like juxtapose Hilo to Target. Hilo chain wide, I think now they have 15 supermarkets across the country. Target alone has 1,900, 2,000 stores. So you can do business in Jamaica, but I also want people to be cognizant that you can create a great product here, you can live here, you can work here, you can raise families here. And not to say, I'm not going to gloss over Jamaica and make it seem like it's a paradise. No, Jamaica has its challenges, but so does everywhere else in the world. But you can do business here, and you can sell to the world from Jamaica, but you cannot overlook branding and your story. I think initially we're a bit shy about telling the Scotch Boyz story. Some people still are shy.
Quite reserved, yeah. Most of us are quite reserved. Mm-hmm. So that was, I think one of our challenges was to really put the story out there and not just to be another sauce. You know what I mean? Right. There's a story behind it. There's and even now launching the merch line, it's like it's a lifestyle brand and a story. So yeah.
And just like, I just want to make sure I got this right. You started and were successful with distribution here in Jamaica first.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. And did you always have in your minds when you first got together that you want to make this a global brand?
I think we did. Yeah. That was definitely the concept from the get-go. We wanted to be, on the shelf next to Tabasco, on tables with Frank's, whatever. The sauces that we saw on every table, in every corner, every restaurant we would go to, whether in the States or in the Caribbean, elsewhere, the concept was to spread sauce all over Jamaica and then take it to a global stage. So, yeah.
And our distributor here, MDS, has really helped us expand our reach in Jamaica. But when we started the brand, and we kind of mapped out our go-to-market strategy. I told the guys, they said, "There's no reason this can't be $1 million brand." So last year they came to me and they said, "Neil, where's the $1 million you promised me?" I said, I never tell you what currency. But again, we've had partners along the way. Our success isn't in a vacuum. You're helping us get exposure for Scotch Boyz, but we're really focused on the States. Is 2020 during COVID, ramped up our website, got on Amazon. Been doing well on Amazon as well. People were at home, they were cooking, they were trying it. One thing about Amazon is a good portal. You can see the number of repeat buyers, the demographics, and that's really helped expand our reach in the States.
What was it like when you inked that first deal in the United States, where we're like, we're shipping our product from Jamaica to the United States?
Yeah. Neil cried. You even cried, didn't you?
No, I
Neil
cried.
So one thing that you left off was, or that amazing feature we got through Amazon for Black History Month. That was huge. They flew us out to Seattle. put us up. We went to the headquarters, Amazon headquarters.
Amazing.
It was, surreal. It was, a whole different, you had, sound and all these different areas to go to. And we ended up getting featured on the website. So
amazing.
that was a big deal for us as well. That really helped to push the sales on Amazon and push, the brand out there too.
That's awesome. And then, so was Amazon like your first distributor, so to speak? U.S. distributor, that is. I'm sorry.
I would say channel.
Okay, channel. Okay.
I'd say the first. Well, actually, no. We were on. We had our own website. We were fulfilling through our website through a third-party vendor. But Amazon is such a frictionless experience. We decided to really push a lot of our U.S. traffic from an online standpoint on Amazon.
Okay, gotcha. And now you guys are in the position currently. You're trying to scale. You're about to get 700 more targets over the summer, you said, right?
Yep. The end caps. Mm-hmm.
And so what is that like? So you like 700 stores. That's a ton of stores. So, I mean, first thing I'm thinking is, how are we going to bottle that many bottles of hot sauce, right? And so what does that ramp up look like internally to make sure that you can really supply that demand?
Down to relationships, that's a lot of peppers. So we have good relationships with our suppliers and with farmers. There's a drought going on in Jamaica right now, and we're paying a premium for peppers in order to meet that demand, because we're giving one shot at this, and we want to ensure that we're fulfilling the demands of our customers and of our primary vendor.
Mm-hmm. And you had mentioned earlier that, hey, if anybody out there is doing Scotch bonnet, you guys will buy from them.
Yep.
No, there's definitely a shortage of peppers right now for sure. Scotch bonnet and West Indian red peppers, we're constantly sourcing. So the factory that we work with, they're excellent at what they do. And they source from hundreds of local farmers. And
I see.
So whenever we do end up having to do, fill big orders like this, they are clutch. We wouldn't be able to do it without them. So that, throwing back to what you mentioned, if there's anybody thinking about going into farming, I would encourage it. It is a dying industry here in Jamaica. We feel it directly, and you can also see the impact of it when you go to the grocery stores. You can see the prices that are in there. It's insane, and sometimes not even it's just the lack of the product. You can't find a product. I'm sure you face that here at the hotel. So it's it's a field it's an area that needs attention.
It's such a lucrative business, though. I had sat down with Martin from Astrojam Farms, and he moved over from Austria and started it, became Farmer of the Year, I think 2 years in a row. And he's a huge advocate for young people getting into farming. And, I don't know if it's social media or whatever, but yeah, you're right. The young people are not getting into it, and it's just concerning for the next generation of farmers. But hopefully with this, maybe somebody out there is just like, man, the demand is there. You know what I mean?
And to be clear, I don't want to just tell people to just go out and grow peppers. There is a method to it. There is quality control. And I would encourage a merger of old and new practices. There's so much technology out there. There's so many advancements in farming industry that I think can be applied here in Jamaica, merged of a sort that will increase production and also, maintain some kind of, quality along the way, and also keeping the consistency and the numbers there, because that's what we really would look for a lot. People, farmers that can give us, okay, say we need 1,000 pounds this month. Can we link them again next month for another 1,000 pounds? Oftentimes that isn't the case, because of the drought that we're facing. A lot of the farmers here now have older practices, so they rely on the weather. They rely on the availability of rain, etc. And then sometimes it floods. So sometimes we get too much rain. So there's so many things that affect farmers here that I think a merger of old and new practices could really solve that. So if anybody's looking to go into that, I would encourage.
Are you guys thinking at all about taking on that vertical?
We do grow some of our own, but we wouldn't be able to grow enough peppers to meet our demand. It wouldn't be it wouldn't be sufficient for us. It wouldn't be. We're focusing on the production of the sauce, and for us to go into that,
it's too large of an investment
yeah.
and probably a lot, right?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. No, just curious. It's just understanding the model, and with the phase that you guys are in right now, I'm sure this was very easy to get here, right? But, and I think a lot of people, especially those who aren't in business and aren't in entrepreneurship, like they don't really understand what it takes to get here. And two-part question. Was there a keystone moment that really either got you over the hump to say like, man, we got something here? And then if you can tell us about maybe your biggest challenge of getting to that keystone moment.
Probably, I mean, you mentioned Hilo. What was the...
Well, I'll say it's like, walking and there's just no street lights and pitch black. And right as you're about to like hit your head against the wall, there's like a flash of lightning. You can at least see the path to walk another 3 feet. So I'll be very candid. This year was very determinative for us. So we were doing fairly well in Jamaica, but we really wanted to break into the US. So earlier this year, Target said they only wants to list us online. And it was said, it seems interesting, but the power of Scotch Boyz is the branding and the shelf presence. So if you're not intentionally searching for Scotch Boyz on Target, then I don't know how much new customers you'd acquire. So we respectfully said, thanks, but no thanks. And a month later, they said they want to put us in stores.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then again, that's made other conversations with everyone else that much easier because we've shown that we can get on shelf, that we can meet the Target orders, their replenishment. So I think this year we kind of drew a stake in the ground and said, let's we'd not close on Scotch Boyz whatsoever. We just refocus our energies and just continue to build out our own website, and again focusing on Jamaica, and we do business in Canada and some business in Europe as well. But it's such a process to get on shelf in the US. There's a huge machine behind the scenes in order to even to get that approval. So I said this year has reinvigorated us, reinvigorated the brand, and it's we're just doubling down on fulfilling our goal of being a household name globally.
Was there any point where you thought that this wasn't going to work and you were going to quit or close up shop?
So many. It's the beauty of having a good team as well. And Neil has said this in multiple interviews, that the good thing about us is that not all of us haven't wanted to quit at the same time. So there's always somebody else just be like, no, man, we got this. Like, if you want to take a breather, but we're pushing through, we're pushing forward.
Yeah.
It's definitely a long game. As with most businesses out there, you really have to be able to look ahead and look far ahead. The sauce industry is even worse. So it's definitely the long game. You're not going in to make one bag of money, in the first year or the second year or the third year. You really have to look ahead. So that's one of the things that has kept us going, is that we've always been able to play off of each other's energy and be like, okay, I can't do this. I can't do this right now. You know what I mean?
Another good Jamaican product is rum. Because we do some of our pitches.
Shout out to rum.
We do some of our pitches, right? I always met the guys and like, yo, we're sauce. People have to see it and taste it. So, one of the pitches the guys did. I was in Atlanta. And I always say, one of the great things about the sauce is you have to try it to love it. So, Drew and Matthew, Drew and Matthew were grilling, and, we want for a presentation for, I think, QVC to be the golden ticket winner. And, we got the golden ticket. So after I saw the guys are drinking, I was like, wait, you guys have the drinks ready? They were like, yeah. Because we're going to drink if we got through, and we're going to drink if we didn't get through. so that's one of the good things. So, Yeah, the highs are high, the lows are low, but it's we're lucky that we're having fun with it along the way, and that's what we want to do. Some of the most important, all of important life events are wrapped around a meal, and what that means sometimes. So we want to be a part of that meal, and we don't take it lightly.
I love that. And what advice would you give, say, a young entrepreneur or somebody maybe doesn't even have any business background, but like they're just starting out, and you guys have gone through the ringer and you continue to go and grow to higher and higher heights. And for somebody starting out who maybe doesn't even know if like they have found their passion or whatever, what would be the best advice that you give for a young entrepreneur?
I would say, it's going to sound cliche, but to really find something that you're passionate about, it makes it so much easier. There's a saying that if you do something you love, you won't work a day in your life. I think the passion behind Scotch Boyz is natural, and it comes from each co-founder. It comes naturally. So we're genuinely passionate about sauce, and so it makes all the headache and everything that we have to go through, all the hoops that we're jumping through. And of course, as Neil mentioned earlier, we want to be successful. We want to make money, and we also enjoy giving back. I would encourage, people that have companies out there, entrepreneurs, you can't be a true entrepreneur. And I strongly believe this. You can't be a true entrepreneur if you don't reinvest into your community, because whatever you're doing, it relies on people. Whether it's a product or a service, whatever you are in the industry, most of these things rely on people. So if you can merge, the growth of your success with helping and growing, the community, I think that in itself is a great merger and will help to push your company forward and your brand. So yeah.
Answer it in a roundabout way. This morning I woke up and I said I'm gonna answer in a roundabout way. This morning I woke up and I said I'm gonna unsubscribe from CNBC on Instagram, because all their postings about these entrepreneurs who make $20,000 a week and they work 2 hours a day, right? It just doesn't work like that.
Right.
So what would I would say to a young entrepreneur? I would say find something you're good at. And you have to balance out what matters more to you, right? You want to find something that you're passionate about, or something that you're really good at that makes you lots of money. I find it's not often the case where the two worlds coincide. I've done things that were from a career standpoint that were very lucrative, but I was selling, IT. Wow, if I ever have to go back to that, I probably can't. I was selling IT solutions, and it was fun. Some companies I worked at were exceptional, but whether this company had additional compute power or not, I don't know if it would have made a world of a difference, right? So again, if you can find something that you're good at, what also passionate about, then you are amongst the most blessed people in the world. But lean into what you're good at and put in the work. Put in the work. Last night when I went out, I was like 9:30. I was tired, had a long day, but I said to myself, I'm going to be more tired next year, this time, than I am today. So let me go out and hand out some sauce to some of these jerk vendors so that a year from now, maybe I have a repeat customer. And that's what we're trying to do, right? So if our sauce is as good as we say it is, right? If we get a customer for life. So each new customer builds on top of that. So that's what we're hoping for.
And Neil, you said put in the work.
Yeah.
What does that mean to each of you? Like in terms of the determination, the hours, just on days you just don't want to do it, like what does that mean and what does that look like for you?
It's being plugged in 24/7, 365. I don't think a day has passed that I haven't done something or thought about Scotch Boyz, and something that will help to move the company forward, something that will add to the brand, whether that be content creation or the social media, some kind of marketing. There's always, one thing that a lesson I learned at a very young age from my dad, speaking of mentorship, is to continue to grow. If you can be 1% better every day, at the end of the month, at the end of 3 months, you're 100% better, close to 100% better than you were. So just that incremental growth and putting one step, one little effort, one little action. And as Neil said, you have to do the work. You have to put the work in. If you want something you don't have, you're going to have to do something that you're not currently doing. And that's, in direct relation to business and in personal life. You want to achieve something, the work has to be put in.
Yeah. So, again, I lead sales, right? And I was talking to a good friend of mine. He said, Neil, you're a sensible young man. He's like, if anyone can figure this business out, you can. He said, but at the end of the day, I don't expect you to be peddling sauce. And I kind of felt a little hurt by that because I have been peddling sauce. It's all
we do.
It's a very personal business. I literally have to carry sauce and drop it off and then go back there and go back there and go back there. Most of restaurants I've gone to and had to try the food to get the sauce on the table. I find it to be a personal business where when I convert, as I was alluding to earlier, I can get a customer for life. And if I can get Scotch Boyz on a tabletop or on someone's menu, then they want more of it. They can go back to that restaurant. They can go to online. They can get that other retailers. So that's and again, sometimes I want to stay home, but I saw this thing the other day. And if you're in business, and unless you're in like tech or just coding or something, staying at home is probably the worst thing you can do. The money is made outside your home.
Absolutely.
And that same friend who said, I was peddling sauce, he said, Neil, you have to leave the house to make money. You said, if you're poor, no one's coming to your house to check on your poverty. Like, hey, how poor are you today? But the moment you make some money, everyone is showing up like, hey, have you paid your taxes today? Hey, can I get some money tomorrow? So leave home so you can make some money, and leave home so when people come to borrow or charge you some taxes, you're not there.
There you go. Now, as you mentioned earlier before about the highs are high and the lows are lows, what do you do individually when you do hit those lows? How do you get yourself out of that funk?
I told you, rum. Honestly, sometimes you just like, we'll have a sauce company. I love to eat out. I'm trying to cut back on that, and I sign up for an expensive gym because it's so expensive. I force myself to go, so I'm trying to work out. Work out more, and
I think that's definitely one of the things that we do collectively. All of us have an active lifestyle.
Awesome.
We work out. Drew has a regiment he works with. So does Kamar. He's always cycling all over New York, and I work out as well on a regular basis. So does Neil. So I think it's one of the things that helps to keep your mind sharp and keep your body active. Health is wealth right now, and we want to be around for when Scotch Boyz is really fully global. So that's one of the things that we do to de-stress, and as well as having an occasional drink, sitting down and just talking about our problems with each other. Just sharing and opening up, and definitely food. Food is a big thing, I think, for all of us as well. We love a good meal, and something. We like trying new food, interesting flavor profiles. So I think those are the three things we do to de-stress. Yeah.
Fair enough.
You tell them about the charcuterie board you made.
Oh yeah. So we have our honey scotch, which is the most recent flavor, and that's doing wonders right now. Everybody's in love with it, and it's made from 100% Jamaican honey, and then the wonderful Scotch bonnet pepper, which has a very fruity, kind of almost pineapple-y flavor profile. So it's a very unique sauce. You're not going to find this sauce anywhere else in the world. And especially not the Scotch Boyz way. So we've paired it with charcuterie board, which is, a big craze right now in the States. And,
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, so it's different cheeses and crackers and cured meats.
Oh, that okay.
Yeah,
I see. I know what you're talking about. Gotcha.
So,
okay.
So yeah, that was fun. We're all over the place, man. We're doing jerk chicken, jerk pork, charcuterie boards. We're doing French cuisine.
Yeah,
we're doing
the hot sauce can make a nice Bloody Mary. The red one.
Yeah.
I
We're
can imagine,
launching
yeah.
we're doing some content now for the hot pepper sauce, which is like the traditional Jamaican hot pepper sauce.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing a buffalo wings with that. There's so many different applications, as well as marinate, direct application to your food, and then also for the Scotch bonnet and the habanero, those can be used as a pepper substitute.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's so many Jamaican dishes from all over the world that need pepper, good quality pepper, but you might not be able to find that where you are.
Right.
You know? So this is the perfect solution for that, you know.
And speaking of content, how has content and creating content helped Scotch Boyz as a brand and as a company?
That has been crucial for us. It's one of the things that helps to separate our brand as well. The kind of content that you see, how engaging it is, you know, if it's thought provoking or not. Whether it's current, you know, content that affects current issues. I think content has been crucial for us. I think all of us would say, you know, it's helped to push the company forward in so many ways. And it's also a free medium. You know, Instagram is free. You know, obviously creating content a lot of times is not free, especially good quality content. It'll take some time. It'll take effort. It may or may not include you outsourcing. You know, not everybody is camera inclined. You know, not everybody will know the angles and the lighting, but you need content. If you have a company, I don't care what your company is or what, you know, your what kind of entrepreneur you are, you need content. And that can be, you know, the one tool that propels the company forward. Obviously, you have to have substance behind it, because if you're posting and then you don't have sauce, then, you know, you're in trouble.
And where do you get inspiration from for the content that you're producing?
So as I mentioned, you know, I very much, you know, I'm indulged in the culinary world, so I love food. I look for inspiration through food and through new dishes. You know, I scroll a lot, and then that helps. And also, the main thing I think that has helped me with content creation is seeing examples out there, but then also trying to be different. You know, you have to think of how you're going to showcase your brand in a different way, and also going to new restaurants, trying different products. I think that has helped a lot with content creation. And then, you know, we bounce around a lot with suggestions, and keeping current issues are good as well. But the main thing for me, I think, with creating content is to have a consistency, especially with the algorithms that they have now. That's one of the things that people look for. You know, they want to see you consistently in their eye. So
consistency in terms of like the volume that you put out. Okay,
exactly.
Gotcha.
And also the quality. So once you get to a certain level, if you're posting 4K and then you drop back, you know, it's going to be noticed. Right. So you want to be consistent with the quality. You want to continue to one up your content, and get the great edits in there, get the great, you know, music, the songs behind it, the angles, all of these things, the details matter. You know, I'm extremely detailed. These guys get annoyed with me all the time. They send me stuff and I'm like, no, that can't be used. There's a piece of dust on the bottle, you know, or I'm not going to use that video because the sauce is, you know, there's a stain on the bottle or something of that matter, or the label isn't straight. A lot of people might think, oh, you're too picky, but details matter, you know, especially with content creation.
Is there any influencer or goal celebrity that you guys are looking to work with? Now let's make it happen right here on Deck with Rob podcast.
Oh man. Yeah, we so it's funny that you mentioned that. That's actually one of the things that we're looking into now. The possibility of a brand ambassador. So we are very keen on, you know, selecting. We're very carefully selecting that person who is going to be the first one. It's obviously going to be a huge deal for us. You know, we're very socially aware. We want somebody that, or individuals that align with our brand and align with the community outreach that we do. And so it's quite difficult to pick.
I'd love Lisa Hannah to give us a shout out, as well as Shensia.
Okay.
So been watching Lisa. Love you long time. That's not appropriate to say. Yeah. Lisa, if you're watching, you know, I've always admired the work you've done in the community and representing Jamaican politics. And Shensia, your music shot. Yeah.
Yeah. I
right.
think Neil sent me the
Drake, Drizzy, can't hurt.
right, that last interview that Lisa Hanna had where she
yeah.
spoke about the farming industry and the need for peppers, that really resonated with us. So
She's saying that, like for export, Jamaica has to export. We have to position ourselves really well. She had this post the other day where she's saying, you should pair Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee and try to present it to like Louis Vuitton stores. So they serve that while they're buying a Louis Vuitton handbag. And I can't think of what would go better in the bag than Scotch Boyz sauce. So I'd love any support we could get would be great.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, you guys heard it here first. Tag Lisa Hanna, tag Sensia, tag Drizzy in this. Send this video to them. That would be awesome. And I think they perfectly align with your brand. Even just from what you just said about the speech you gave about encouraging farmers and the Louis Vuitton collaboration. So let's put that out in the universe.
it's
gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Awesome.
So
So moving forward, as I kept alluding to earlier, that you guys have a lot of big things happening and that's in the pipeline. Can you give us some ideas, as much as you can reveal, about what's to come with Scotch Boyz?
Yeah, expanding the product line. We have some cool ideas and some new creations that are going to be released before the year is out. And again, we are looking at doing curated events as well, leveraging our sauce. So a lot here in the grill as well. So a lot more to come with that.
Okay, awesome.
Also, you look out for our merch line as well. So we will be. We've actually launched the merch. It's up on our website now. So you can get hats. We're going to be doing tank tops and stuff like that, T-shirts, just to really, put the lifestyle brand out there. So it won't be like work stuff. It'll be, really clean cut, just the pepper and inverted colors and stuff like that. So that's one of the things we had in the pipeline that's up and running now.
And as far as distribution, I know we've been talking a lot about America, and I understand you're in Europe now as well. Are there any regions or countries that you're really aiming to get into?
Next up on my radar is actually Australia. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I've reached out to a few distributors there, but I think, I see some similarities between our culture. We love sports. We love being outdoor. They love they love cooking outdoors as well. So that, I think our jerk would do exceptionally well there.
Okay. Since you're in that region, I'm going to put this out there. My mother's from Fiji, so I'm half Fijian. So let's get it out there to Fiji. Nice. And the culture there, very, very similar to Jamaica. It's unbelievable. Like, it's half a world away. And I went there a few years ago as an adult for the first time. And I can tell you, like, I was just so comfortable. It felt like I was here. It felt like I was home. Nice. And it was home for me, in many ways. And so all my aunties, my mother, my uncles, they love hot sauce.
Okay.
So put that out there, and I think it can do well. And when I'm going there next year for family reunion, so I'll definitely be bringing some Scotch Boyz with me, unless you get there before I do.
We'll come with, man, for sure.
Okay, awesome. Now, with the social impact that you guys are having, and main reason why I want to talk about it, because you guys are in St. Paul's Primary, and my dad was the chairman for St. Paul's Primary for 10 years, back in the early 2000s. And you spoke about the importance of not just making money for the sake of making money, but the importance of investing in community and being part of that. And that's something that, like, I very much believe in, and we believe in here at Travelers. And that's something that my dad has instilled in me and my brothers, is that we have a responsibility to bring up the next generation and to invest and contribute to that. Can you speak to, or further to that, as to why this is so important to you guys?
I mean, obviously, aside from the fact that we obviously grew up here, it's personal to us. We know the teachers, and just to, a backstory of St. Paul's Primary, one of the teachers there I actually went to Manning's with. So how we adopted that school, she asked me to speak on Career Day, and naturally I was excited to go, and said yes, of course. Went out. What was supposed to be a 45-minute talk turned into I think I was at the school for about 4 hours.
Wow.
Ended up canceling the rest of my day, and just spoke with a bunch of the kids, spoke with the principal, and really saw where there were so many gaps in the, the educational system. Obviously, Jamaica being a third world country and having struggles that it naturally has. And then when you go in, you find out that there's so many more, So this school in particular is under, I think, the quota for the government funding because of the amount of students. So it's 100 kids, it's like 100 or less. So they don't qualify for the limited government funding that is available. So they're even worse off than what we see mainstream. And a lot of times, the teachers try to fill the gaps themselves on their limited pay. They end up trying to help students, etc. And then obviously being hit by the pandemic on top of all of that, it really set students back and teachers as well. So, the project that we're working now is indicative of that struggle because it's, a basic need. So just to give some insight, we're building a walkway that will allow the students to access the restrooms when it rains. It's a simple project. You wouldn't imagine these issues in most other places, but it's the reality here in Jamaica. So aside from, supplies and books and tablets and stuff like that, a basic need is to use the restroom. And that, I think, bridging that gap and then moving on to other programs. So the next program that we'll be piloting is going to be our pepper program. So what we'll be doing is going into schools, starting with St. Paul's Primary. We'll be building a small greenhouse for them, showing them how to grow seedlings, how to start pepper trees, and also best practices. I think we are trying to allocate funds towards helping them with maybe some equipment also, and farming equipment, things that would give them a competitive edge. And then we will also purchase the peppers that they grow to use in our sauce, and that will help to supplement the canteen. A lot of these smaller schools, they end up trying to source the money for the lunches for the students and for the teachers as well, and the people that work on the compound. So that is a big. We're very passionate about that project, and that's going to make a huge impact as well. So we'll be starting with St. Paul's and then moving to other schools with the pepper program, which will also help to maybe spark some young minds into going into farming, which is already a very natural Jamaican thing. Yep. I know most Jamaicans I know can grow anything. They grow things in the backyard. It's the norm here. So we already have this green thumb. It's such a shame to see the industry dying, So we're extremely passionate about the outreach, and that's one of the things that keeps us going and that we want to, promote and put out there so that it will inspire others. I was talking to Neil yesterday that one of the things that inspires me the most is when I see other people doing it. That was one of the things that really sparked me. So it's not, and being reserved, I didn't want to promote this. We do so much, but we just do it. And then we don't say it. And sometimes we feel bad about saying it because we're like, oh, we're just looking for clout or we're looking for sales or whatever. But I think the true passion behind it is to inspire others to do the same. There's so many individuals that are in a place to help and in a place to make your environment, your community better, and they don't do it for whatever reason. So that's really the inspiration behind the community outreach.
Man, I think it's like, first of all, I mean, what you're doing is amazing.
Thank you.
Secondly, it's so important that you guys get the word out on what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Because we were just talking earlier before we started the pod about the silliness that we see on Instagram when we just start unfollowing people because of the garbage that they're putting out there. And the negativity, the foolishness that's out there, it's overwhelming. I would say that's 90% of what you see out there. And we need more of this. We need more of the positivity. We need more of the inspirational content to be put out there, because otherwise, all of this negativity and all of this foolishness that we see out there, it's going to win. And that's what's going to be what's inspiring people and inspiring the young kids. And so more than anything else, I was like, man, keep doing it, keep pushing it out. You have an obligation. I'll tell you, you guys have an obligation to put this stuff out there, and we want to see it. I do want to bring some context for everybody out there. Like St. Paul's primary is in the middle of a sugarcane field. Like there's nothing but cane around there. And I was getting goosebumps when you were telling the story about the walkway to the bathroom, because it was my father who built those bathrooms.
No way.
And now you guys are literally bridging that gap.
That's awesome.
And I was like, yo, this is crazy.
That is so cool, bro. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's so awesome, man.
And so when my father first became chairman, they were pit toilets. And that's where the kids would go into the bathroom. And it was like, I remember going there and seeing it for the first time. Absolutely disgusting. Nasty, man. And so now, like, I guarantee if you scrape off the paint that's there in the bathroom for that structure, and also the library, it's from our Buy a Brick program that we used to do here during spring break. And so spring breakers would come and they would paint their names on these bricks, and they would buy them. And those bricks went towards building the bathroom, and then also the library at St. Paul's Primary. And so it's just crazy that you guys are literally bridging that gap with the walk. Amazing stuff, man.
That's awesome, man. We gotta pick up where everybody leaves off. So that's awesome. And I have to say, speaking of inspiration, I think you and your family have been, a huge inspiration here in the Grill for the outreach that you do. Just even that brick program, the block program. I remember seeing that when I was younger. I coming here to Travelers, and you guys would have the blocks lined out at the restaurant. And I would be like, what is going on here? Like it almost looked like you started a building but didn't finish, right? But then I saw all the writing, everybody signing them, and I was just like, wow. That is so unique, such a cool concept. And just the work that your dad does, man. I mean, and you guys you've picked it up now and have continued it. It's definitely an inspiration as well. So, big up to you guys, man. That's amazing.
Thank you very much. I kind of closing out here. I do want to talk about each individual sauce. Okay. And if you can I know you talked a little bit about the jerk sauce and the honey Scotch bonnet, but let's just go through all of them.
Yeah. This jerk seasoning is actually my personal favorite. Oh no! I was at this event, and I had cooked, and someone who was not a good fan of me bit into some jerk pork I had made in the air fryer, and he was like, "Oh my god, this is the best jerk I've ever had." He's like, "Who made it?" And I was like, "Neil." He's like, "I guess it's not that good." The cat was out the bag, so you put this on anything, and honestly, I would say don't add anything else to it. You're gonna ruin it. So pop in your air fryer, pop it on the grill, put it in your oven on your meats, your vegetables. You have a complete meal. The Scotch bonnet sauce is great as well. We have the scorch factor on the back of the label. That's about a 4 out of 5. It does have a good kick to it, but it goes amazing on any of your proteins, your vegetables. Summer's coming up. If you're having any oyster, it's delicious. Matthew, you talk about the
jerk sauce, right? So the jerk sauce, huge flagship for us as well. So obviously showcasing the Jamaican produce. Everything that we source here is local, and this can be used as a marinade. It can also be directly applied to your meal. And it's my favorite for, I use obviously jerk chicken, but one of my favorite dishes with it is I did a jerk beef the other day, and it was so good. I just rubbed a little on it and left it for half an hour. Best results, I would say, if you can marinate for the day before, that, when you slap that on the grill or an air fryer or, whatever you do with it, it's going to be flavor straight through. So that's the jerk sauce.
Yep. Awesome. The red pepper sauce now, this is our most versatile sauce. It could be used as a household staple. I made buffalo wings, buffalo cauliflower bites. It really goes well. And this morning I was looking on Aisha Curry's website, Sweet July, and I saw this recipe for a Bloody Maria. So you swap out, it's a Bloody Mary, but you swap out the vodka for tequila. And the recipe calls for Tabasco, and I think you could swap out the Tabasco for just add 4 drops of our hot pepper sauce. So it's a versatile sauce. It's a household staple.
My favorite for soups as well. That's my favorite sauce for soup.
So tag Aisha Curry on this too.
Right. And then the island barbecue, which I always call this one the sweetheart of the family. So for the people that can't manage the heat, this is what you would go to.
That's me right
Straight
there.
go to.
All
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. So packed with flavor, packed with Jamaican ingredients. Can also be used as a marinade. This is also a great base for if you want to be creative. So for the chefs out there that can't help but add something to it or do something else, this is a great base to start with, because the heat profile is lower, so you have more to build up. You can work with it. I use this in so many dishes, and this one is actually used in a lot of restaurants as well, in the kitchen. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think this is going to be a game changer once word gets out there. This is our honey Scotch sauce. It is, and I've tried a lot of like the chili honeys and other hot honeys on the market, and this is just unbelievable. Give it a try. We had an event in Atlanta the other day, and it was like hands down the favorite. So it's made with only Jamaican sourced honey and other ingredients as well. But this is going to be a game changer once people try it. We can't keep it in stock. Can't make enough of it.
Yeah, that one is huge as well for wings. So there's a restaurant here in the grill that's their biggest seller because of the wings, and they have to have the honey Scotch sauce in stock, because when people eat the wings, they ask, "Do you guys bottle this sauce? Is this sauce available?" And they're just, "Okay, yeah, here."
Should we say the name of the restaurant?
It's called Matthews. Yeah.
Let's go.
So next up we have the habanero, which is the same as the West Indian red pepper. It's really, really spicy. This one is for the heat lovers. If you want to be scorched, you can see the Scoville level on here. It's no joke. So this one is definitely for the heat lovers. Great with wings as well. Great as a pepper substitute. It's one of the things that we pride ourselves in is the quality of the product. So our production costs are a little bit higher because we focus on the quality. We don't use fillers and stuff like that. It's very important for us that the pepper is showcased. So this is indicative of that. This is super hot West Indian red pepper.
A little bit of this in the morning can replace your morning coffee. Wake your ass right up.
I will stay away from that one.
Yeah.
Now, is there anything in the pipeline as far as new flavors coming out that you can talk about that you're working on, mad scientist?
So next up, what we want to do is create, like, most of our sauces are hot, except the honey Scotch isn't that hot. The island barbecue isn't that hot. Want to create like a sweet profile, so replicating the other sauces with a honey variant, but also honey is an animal byproduct, so replicate that with a vegan line. So a sweet sauce but made with agave. So that's what we have in the pipeline as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
When is that coming out, you think?
We're having agave isn't produced in Jamaica. Everything else is. So we're trying to nail down a sustainable supplier of the agave who adheres to our procurement principles.
Gotcha. Awesome. And so it seems like you guys, everybody can cook, I'm assuming.
We can hold our own. Some of us can cook better than some, but
I can cook.
It sounds like you guys can.
I can cook. I'm not gonna be modest about it. Yeah.
I cannot. So and I was saying this on my live stream. We were talking about like dating in Jamaica, right? And I was just like, the one thing you can say whatever you want about Jamaican men, but they can cook. And I was like, that's the one thing you can't take away that I was like, I've always been impressed with. So maybe one day I will.
Scotch Boyz will make it easy for you, bro.
Yeah.
We'll make it super easy for you.
Awesome.
I make a curry goat, and it's hands down, I think it's like the best curry goat ever. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're gonna be doing a lot of curated food events now, as Neil mentioned. So we may or may not use that opportunity to showcase our individual skills. Drew is a grill master as well. His food is just absolutely amazing. Obviously with his knowledge of spices and sauces from generations. We may or may not see one of us behind the grill over in the next coming weeks.
Okay. Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Man, I just want to thank you guys so much for taking the time out to sit down with me and get like a better understanding of your business model, what you guys been, where you guys are going. and just want to wish you continued success and the best of luck with everything that you guys are doing, and keep inspiring, man. All of you guys, please keep inspiring and doing what you're doing.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Want to keep doing what we're doing. You know, thank you for having us on. But again, you know, what drives this is revenue. So, you know, buy us online. We're on Target. Buy it, leave a review, honest review.
Reviews really go a long way. You know, we
yeah.
want to not only stay in these stores, but we want to grow as well. So, you know, we're just reaching out to the diaspora that's out there. You know, if you like what you see, come support. Leave a review on Target.com, where we've worked diligently to make it as easily accessible as possible. And so, yeah.
And where can everybody find you guys on socials, your website?
Yeah, we're on social media. We're Scotch Boyz, at Scotch Boyz on Instagram, and our website also scotchboyz.com. You can get all the information on there, as well as our store locator. So one thing I would love to mention as well is that we're not in every single Target store. So we are in a test market for now, but you can locate the store nearest to you. There's a link in our bio, and that'll take you straight to that.
Okay, awesome. So everybody, get your Scotch Boyz wherever you are. Order it online, Amazon. Find it on the Target application.
Target.com. Yeah.
Okay, awesome stuff.
Yeah.
So thank you guys again, man.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having us, man.
We gotta bring you back next year.
Question for you.
Yeah.
What's your resting heart rate?
Oh, I think I just got down to under 50.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I hit 49 the other week.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are you running a week? How many miles?
Probably I'm just getting back, so I'm probably at like maybe 60 miles.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's impressive, bro. So impressive, man. Obviously I follow you on Instagram, and every time I open up, I'm like, bro, he's running again. It's so it's inspiring, man. One of these days, I'm gonna try to come out with you on these runs. But,
do you have a Whoop? Is that why you asked? Okay,
I didn't recognize it. Yeah.
Okay. I just got this thing.
Okay.
I didn't even mean to plug it, but like it's freaking amazing. Yeah.
Nice.
It's really, really awesome. But
Nice.
I mean, you guys use it. You know, fitness, I feel like to your advantage, and I feel like it's a competitive advantage for you guys. I feel like it is for me as well.
Yeah.